Okay, everyone, thank you for coming this morning. If you're at Web Congress, my talk will be at 9 a.m. So get your coffee and get your tea and get ready. So today we're going to be talking about setting social media expectations and goals for your followers. But I also like to call it why 1 million followers sucks. So we'll get into more about that. So to give you a little background about who I am, I'm Erica McGilvery. I'm the Senior Community Manager at Moz, which is a marketing software company in Seattle. Woo, woo, woo. I'm a huge community building and social media geek. And I also love some other stuff, so if you happen to follow me on Twitter, don't be alarmed if you hear a lot about comic books. Also, the last time I was on stage, I was dressed as Olaf the Snowman from Frozen, so it gets a little crazy. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk about you guys. You're the social media manager of some sort. It could be one hat you wear of like 25, or it could be your primary position. But if you're doing social media online, there's a few things that you are probably, thinking about in your job. So you want to do great and excel at what you're doing. You want to please your boss. You want to learn new things about your industry. And you want to grow your social media followers. But that can be a little dangerous. I don't know how many of you guys have been in the position. I've been in the position where I've had a CEO type person come up to me and say, I want you to get X followers on social media. That could be 1 million, that could be 100,000, and that's really, really dangerous because you, the manager, you start to panic. You start to think, oh my gosh, how am I going to get that many followers? This is super dangerous. And it's scary because you're just going to hit this wall and you're going to panic and you're going to get desperate. So just take a deep breath because there are some truths about social media and particularly businesses on social media, and these are a little harsh truths. So the first one is that the average followers on different networks aren't actually super high, right? We're not all Justin Bieber, we're not all President Obama, and that's okay. So the average business on Twitter has around 14,000 followers. It's not even if you're starting at zero, that's not a huge goal to get. It's not unrealistic. On Facebook, it's 13,000. And on Pinterest and Instagram, you're right around just in the hundreds. That's not a lot of followers to build up, and it's much more realistic. There's also the fact that most people, unfortunately, most brands, no one cares to hear your message because the message you are sending out is not relevant, and people just tune you out. So this is a little diagram that I made of my path when I get my mail. I feel like a lot of brands on social media, it's like direct mail. All it is here's a coupon, grab this. So when I get home, I go to my mailbox, and I grab my mail, and I sort through it, and I have 2 stacks in my hands. One is a stack that I take, and I put in my recycle bin directly. I don't even walk in my house before I throw it in the recycle bin. And that's all the ads. And then the other pile is bills, letters from grandma, the things that I actually take into my door. So you don't want your messages to just be direct mail. And of course, another issue is people's attention spans, which is part of the reason why these messages come off so badly. On Twitter, the average tweet only lasts 18 minutes. And then you could send another one and people wouldn't have heard you. On Facebook, it's 2 to 3 hours, which is not much longer. Of course, if people engage with that content, they'll see it more often, which is what you want. And on Google+, it's about the same. And on Instagram, it's a little longer, probably just due to saturation in that market is not quite there yet. But yeah, people are just going away from you. So the problem is that so many brands think that everyone is their audience. The messages aren't targeted, they don't make sense. Because the masses, they don't care what you have to say. But maybe there are like 2 people that do, and they're interested in hearing what you have to say. So when you're setting your goals, you got to think about those 2 people that actually want your message. So again, if you get this like, I want 100,000 followers in 8 months goal from your client or your boss, don't panic. And please, 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 please do not buy followers. It's very, very tempting, especially if you're worried about your job and if you go into a review and you're like, oh God, am I going to get fired because I didn't meet these goals? You got to instead have that tough talk. You have to say, why is my brand on social media? Why are we doing this? What makes sense for the goals that we want to achieve? There's lots of reasons for a brand to be on social media. It could be because you want a strong branding presence. It could be because it's another customer service channel. It really goes back to your business goals. And if you say, hey, I need to collect some product feedback and I want to do some testing, that's why I'm on social media. Your goals are going to look way different than someone who's like, I'm a thought leader in my industry and I want to share those thoughts on social media. And please, please say no to reporting vanity metrics. So this is a graph of Moz's followers on Twitter. We have almost 300,000 for our main account. That's amazing. It's awesome. But it's not that important of a metric. And while you shouldn't report it, you do need to track it because you do need it for math. And it's very, very important for other metrics that you're looking at. So I suggest instead reporting engagement. You guys have probably heard this term before, and you're probably like, oh, engagement. Well, let's talk about what that means. So I'm going to talk a lot about true social metrics. So you probably get tired of hearing about them. You should go check out their tool. It's pretty awesome. They do all the things for you. And what they're looking at are 3 things. The conversation, which is going to be responses to what you're posting, and applause, which is going to be people favoriting, people liking, and amplification, which is people that are resharing. So here's some numbers from Moz's April social media metrics. So it's actually, how they get this is really easy. It's just very simple math, like a 4th grader could do it sort of math. So it's counting and division. Wow, hard, guys. So they take, whatever time period you want to do your analytics in. You choose your time period, and you look at the number of actions. So if you want to look at the amplification, you're going to take all the reshares on that network, and you divide it by the number of posts that you made, and you get your rate. So if you made 1 post and you got 1 comment, you get a 1. And then you can figure out your baselines. So you look at your conversations, and you look at your conversation rate, and you can say, you can learn lots of things. You can say who's chatting at me, what's interesting on different networks. You may, post a question on Facebook and get a ton of responses, but if you do the same thing on Twitter, maybe no one's chatting with you. What's going on? What's interesting to your audience? So here are some of Moz's stuff. So we've created a super simple spreadsheet where we did a baseline, and then we said, we want to increase it by this %. And then we said, here's where we currently are, and here's how much of that goal is complete. So if you look at this, when it comes to chatting, our Facebook audience is totally chatty. Those people on Google+, though, we got to lift them up. So we have to think, oh, how do we need to change our strategy on Google+? You can also look at conversation rates and are you keeping up with your competitors? So this is a chart from Sprout Social, and this is looking at us against HubSpot. HubSpot is more of a competitor in like our social media space. And it shows that HubSpot's kind of kicking our butt. More people online are talking about them. Like what does that mean? What are they doing that we're not doing? This is a Twitter chart. I would probably say that they're probably getting more paid ads, so they're probably getting a larger audience reach. So there's also amplification. Amplification is who is resharing my content and where is it going. You can find that on certain networks, things are more powerful. We at Moz, we blog a lot about marketing, and so we find that like on Twitter, if it's an article about Twitter, it's going to go far on Twitter. It's what people like to hear. So you can look at your results and you can say what is really powerful and where people are sharing it and why they're sharing it. So again, here's some amplification goals that Moz has. And we have seen, again, we have that Google+. Like, what's going on Google+? Why are our goals not as high in other places? How can we better ourselves to make it a little harder? Or not a little harder, a little better. You can also use tools like Buffer to look at audience reach. They're not the only one that does this, but this is a share on Twitter, and it shows when people reshare it, how many more people. This is a personal share I did, and I have a little over 2,000 Twitter followers, and some people retweeted it, and it reached 7,500 people. It's pretty cool. If you're not using Google+, you can look at Google+ ripples to see how people are sharing, and this also shows you who the influencers in your industry or about that certain topic are, so you can make connections with them. So this is a ripple that was done on a post about MozCon, which is our annual conference that happens in July. And you can see there's a big bubble with Mike Arneson's name. Mike was one of our speakers last year, and he's a big community supporter, and he's really excited about MozCon, and he's a huge influencer on Google+. So he's someone that we know loves this content, and maybe if we were doing some promotion, we might reach out to him and say, hey, Mike, you want to help us with some MozCon stuff? Here's some exclusive content that you can share on your Google+, because we know it highly resonates with his audience. You can also use tools to tell you what content's doing really well, so you can share that content again. You saw earlier how short people's attention spans are. So why not post it again? This tool is Rival IQ, and they do a really good breakdown showing you how many times more your content is being shared than average. So you can quickly grab those top shares. You also look at applause rate. You want to know who's on your side, who's cheering, who's got your back, giving you high fives. So we know on Facebook has done such a great job at making this so easy. People are always hitting that like button. I think we all know from even our personal Facebook profiles that that person you haven't heard from 10 years, that's your friend on Facebook. They'll like so much stuff, and you're like, wow, this is crazy. So another thing, when you look at engagement, you also want to look at relative engagement. So I'm going to explain this as clearly and hopefully easily as possible. So what is relative engagement? So relative engagement is the idea that as your audience grows, you want to converse with the same amount of people, or you want to maintain a percent of conversation. So what this means is if you throw a party and you invite 10 people to this party and you talk to 5 of them, you're at 50% of the people that come. But if you have a party the next week and 20 people come, to maintain the same conversation rate, you have to talk to 10 people at that party. So that's the really simple math and the idea behind it. So again, this is something that True Social Metrics will help you calculate if you're a little scared of the math, but it's also something that you can do in a spreadsheet. So basically, again, you take whatever time period you want to look at. You take the number of whatever action you're reporting on, whether it's sharing or applause or conversation. You divide that by the number of posts, and then you divide that by your followers per 1,000 followers. Unless, of course, your network is smaller, then you may have to do it by hundreds. And then you get your relative engagement rate. And then if you want to look at how your specific piece of content is doing, you can take the number of actions and divide it by, again, your followers per 1,000. And you can say, like, oh, my content did better or worse than average. So at Moz, we did like sort of similar stuff with our relative engagement goals. And it's really interesting to look. So we have, as I mentioned, we have almost 300,000 Twitter followers. And our relative engagement rate on Twitter is really, really low because we have so many followers. And we on the community and social media team, we feel like we're always tweeting, which is completely true. We tweet a ton, but compared to the amount of followers, that rate is not as high, and that rate is something that we want to grow. And it's certainly something that as we gain followers, we want to keep up. Okay, so what about conversions? A lot of people are like, okay, how does social media make me money? We hear that a lot. How do you track that sort of goal? So I want you guys to think about your business goals and then think how you can break them down to make it relevant for social media. So Moz, like any business, has a goal of we want to increase how many customers we have. Yay, paying customers. And on the community team, we've taken that and we've said, okay, how can we help that? We can help by driving people to our site and creating traffic and throwing them in the top of the funnel. So we have a goal of increasing organic traffic to Moz's site by 25%. So while that's not a direct, this many people bought our software because they saw us on Twitter goal, it is an assist in conversions. And so just popped into Google Analytics and pulled some numbers. You can also look at different other things, other business goals you might have. For instance, you might have important news to share with someone. Maybe you rebranded, maybe you got a new CEO. All these things have happened at Moz recently, so I know they happen at other businesses too. You may be driving on-site registration for a on-site community. You may be driving email signups. You might be doing some sort of other lead generation. And this can be your conversion metric. And you also want to report anything else that is relevant to your business. And this is going to be really specific to maybe your niche, maybe it's your team, whatever kind of works. So here's some like, I would say, fun stuff that I pulled from Moz. So in Moz, we want to make our customers happy. And we send out happy packages. There are various ways you can get them. And in Q1 of this year, we sent out 362 packages. That's a lot of goodies to various Moz fans. Everything from stickers and pens to t-shirts and notebooks. It's pretty amazing. We also have had crazy team growth because we've been growing our social media followers and our larger on-site community as well. And in 2010, we officially, Jen Lopez took over managing community and started wrangling it all. And since then, we've added people. So it went from one person, and now we have 5 full-time community team members and 4 part-time people. It's pretty amazing. We also use it to collect product feedback. So maybe this is not as fun as some of the other stuff, but it's obviously very important as you're pivoting and growing your business to know what your customers are saying and what they want. So this is from 2014 so far, product feedback, and these are some of the top things that people have been requesting from Moz, like multi-seat login and responsive design on our website. And we keep track of how many people ask for this so we can better prioritize things, because obviously you can't just go to your team, your engineers, or who's ever building things for you and be like, do this, and then the next day it's there. Sometimes it is, but usually they're longer projects. And so I have a few kind of final suggestions for your reporting and how to make it better. Your reporting should really tell a story, and that story is, of course, backed up by the data and the numbers that you're sharing, but you need to show it in a way that shows your love of how much like this community, this social media means to you, how passionate you are about it, and also make sure that whatever you're sending to people is relevant, which is really why those follower growth reports don't make sense, because they're not very relevant for that audience. And you have to figure out, like, so who's your audience? Who are you sending these reports to? You might have weekly check-ins with your team where you don't generate any reports. You might just bring exciting things you're doing or issues or where you need help. You probably will have at least monthly check-ins with like your greater marketing team or some other, maybe it's your entire company. That's the time you should probably pull out some of these engagement reports and show what you're doing. But also don't forget to provide some context. At Moz, when we send out monthly reports on our engagement, we always like to attach a great picture someone in our community has sent us, usually about our brand, that shows everyone else in the company how much people outside love us. And it makes everyone excited and a little more passionate. And don't forget to share with the world and share with people at least quarterly. Whether you're writing a blog post about some of the cool things people did, or if maybe you're approaching some great follower number and getting people excited. That's like one appropriate way to use a follower account. Or maybe it's just that you're retweeting someone who's a strong member of your community and you're making their day. So at the end of the day, when I think about social media metrics and my social media interactions and growing brands, I want to have 1,000 conversations with 100 people. I don't want 1 million followers and only 100 conversations. That's not quality. So thank you guys so much. And if you guys have any questions, please ask away. And you can always tweet at me or you can email me. And I'm always available to chat more. I'm going to put this deck up on SlideShare, so it'll be available for you, because I also have some other resources for further reading and links to all those tools that I mentioned. So thank you very much.